This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and this is everything you need to know before seeing Alien Romulus. Romulus is the latest installment of the Alien franchise and takes place between the events of the original Alien, which came out in 1979, and its sequel film Aliens, which came out in 1986. So Alien took place in the year 2122, and Aliens takes place more than 50 years later in 2179. Romulus, however, takes place in the year 2142, a time between the two original films. It's even suggested in the marketing that Alien Romulus could be serving as a direct sequel to that original Alien film. Now, to prepare for Romulus, we not only need to recap the events of the original Alien, but we need to take a 3.2 billion year journey into the past, taking a look at the films Prometheus and Alien Covenant, two prequel films that further expand on Ridley Scott's lore for the franchise he created nearly half a century ago. So, a few billion years ago, an alien race of humanoid beings called the Engineers are seen leaving Earth in their spaceship, but they left behind one of their own. This left behind engineer then drinks a black liquid that causes his body to deteriorate into this waterfall, and this results in the origins of life on Earth. Fast forward to modern day and we see the creation of the Weyland Corporation, the company responsible for the notorious deep space travel of the Alien franchise. They're also responsible for the creation of androids like David, Walter, and Ash from the original Alien film. The Weyland Corporation is determined to capture and learn more about the alien creature that we'll come to know as the Xenomorph, and their goal is to use the Xenomorph as a weapon. But it's important to point out that in 2079, the Xenomorph did not yet exist. So fast forward a decade to the year 2089, and archaeologists have found an ancient star map that they believe will lead them to the creators of humanity, the Engineers.
I think they want us to come and find them.
4 years later, the spacecraft known as Prometheus arrives at the distant star system, and there they find the dead corpses of the Engineers.
Do you even care if they're all dead?
Weyland cared.
They discover the same black substance from the beginning of the film, and David, the double agent android of Peter Weyland, uses the black goo to infect a crew member.
Good health.
Mutated creatures living on the planet emerge and attack the crew, and meanwhile David finds a living engineer. We learn that the Engineers plan to return to Earth with this black substance to destroy their creation, that creation being humanity. The infected crew member, Shaw, soon discovers that she has a parasite living inside her.
You're pregnant.
A parasite that will be revealed as an early form of the infamous facehugger from the original Alien films. Facehuggers are the creatures that come from xenomorph eggs. They attach themselves to other organisms, and then the victim of the attack births a xenomorph, aka the alien. But this early version of the facehugger is not in a xenomorph egg. Instead, it is gestating within a host, similar to what we've seen the xenomorph do in other Alien films. But hey, more on all of that here in a bit. So the surviving engineer is awakened by David, and he attempts to continue his mission to Earth to destroy humanity. But he is foiled when the Prometheus ship crashes into the engineer's ship. The engineer survives, but he is attacked by the same facehugger that was growing inside of Shaw. We then see a xenomorph-like creature called the Deacon, an early version of the xenomorph, pop out of the engineer's chest, just like we saw in the original Alien. Shaw and David then embark on a new mission to find the other engineers. And hey look, while I do love this franchise, I have to admit, my chest stays tight while watching these movies. I mean, I can't imagine being out there in the depths of space where no one can hear you scream, going toe-to-toe with a freaking xenomorph. So, as much as I love these movies, I have to admit, I do get a little anxious while watching them. And when I'm anxious, I unknowingly start doing things like biting my lips. Terrible habit. So I needed something to help distract myself from stressful situations and help me forget those bad oral fixation habits and replace them with a positive one. That's why I started using Fume. They're the sponsor of this video.
Oh, is that a vape?
It's not a vape, it's not electronic, and it doesn't have pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals. Instead, it has these plant-based cores that are infused with natural flavors to create natural flavored flavored air. You see, flavored air is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking. Fume contains no nicotine, it is not addictive, and it contains non-toxic flavors. It contains plant-based flavors like spearmint ice, cinnamon hearts, and my current favorite, orange vanilla. With flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation habits through a passive diffusion system that does not use electronics, vapor, or combustion. But mostly I like that it still gives me something to reach for when I feel anxious, and it even has movable parts for fidgeting that make an incredibly satisfying sound. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be their next success story. For a limited time, you can use my code ScreenCrush to get your free topper. It's the perfect accessory to your Fume device. You slip it onto the mouthpiece for a softer, warmer feel. It's chewable for those who love to fidget, and it's reusable. So head to tryfume.com, that's tryfum.com, and use the code ScreenCrush or scan the QR code on screen to get your free Fume topper when you order the Journey Pack today. Now, back to Alien. So 10 years after the events of Prometheus, a ship called the Covenant has embarked on a mission to colonize a planet called Auriga 6. I'm probably saying that wrong, but hey. On board, they have 2,000 people plus 1,400 embryos. And also on board is the aforementioned android Walter, who is almost identical to David. The crew picks up on a transmission from a nearby planet, and they decide to investigate.
It's close. A little jump, a few weeks. Wouldn't even have to go back into hypersleep.
Maybe we need to take a closer look.
Soon the crew discovers that the planet has seemingly been deserted.
What are the odds of finding human vegetation this far from Earth?
2 members of the crew are then exposed to an airborne infection that creates creatures called neomorphs inside of the host. The neomorphs then attack the crew members, and the survivors are rescued by David from Prometheus. We learn that Shaw is dead and that David has been living in solitude on the planet. David takes this crew, the Covenant, to a city that was once inhabited by the engineers. David then reveals that he utilized the black goo from Prometheus to wipe out the engineers. And he's been using this virus in an experimental fashion to create new life forms. Life forms including the star of the franchise, the Xenomorph. It becomes clear that David is a bit unhinged, and that he is the one who killed Shaw. He tries to convince his android counterpart, Walter, to join him in his quest, but that doesn't go over well.
It's your choice now, brother. Serve in heaven or reign in hell.
Members of the crew escape back to the ship, but a xenomorph, one of the first, has tagged along for the ride. They soon realize that the android on board the ship isn't Walter, it's actually David. But it's too late to stop him, the crew is put into cryosleep, and David is now in control of the ship. And he also brought with him 2 alien embryos that he places alongside the human embryos on board, continuing his mission to create life. I also want to take a second to mention our merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com, where we have this awesome alien-inspired Abbey Road parody where we see, in the place of the Beatles, instead the egg, the facehugger, the chest burster, and of course the alien itself. We've also got lots of other fun shirts up on the channel that are kind of alien adjacent, such as this kitty cat Flurkin shirt with tentacles coming out from behind this Hannibal Lecter-esque mask. Shopping our merch store is the best way to support our channel so that we can keep making videos just like this one. Thank you so much for your support. Now, a couple decades later, in the year 2122, we link up with another spacecraft called the Nostromo. They're returning to Earth after a mission, but they are awakened from cryosleep when their ship receives a transmission from a nearby moon.
Seems she has intercepted a transmission of unknown origin. She got us up to check it out.
There, the crew encounters a hive of eggs.
Appears to be completely sealed.
The character Kane is attacked by the aforementioned facehugger. Kane is then brought back to the ship, breaking the quarantine protocol that Officer Ripley ordered them to obey.
If we let it in, the ship could be infected. You know the quarantine procedure.
24 hours for decontamination.
They attempt to remove the facehugger and quickly learn that these beasts have acid blood.
Molecular acid.
Must be using it for blood.
The facehugger eventually removes itself from Kane, but only after having left behind a xenomorph inside him. During a celebratory meal, the xenomorph bursts from Kane's chest and escapes into the depths of the ship. This creature quickly grows into a full-fledged xenomorph, and one by one, the alien kills each member of the crew, all except, of course, for Ripley, the lone survivor. Ripley soon discovers that the Weyland-Yutani Company was behind it all and has given secret orders for the alien, the xenomorph, to be brought back to Earth, and that the crew was deemed completely expendable.
There is an explanation for this, you know.
I want to hear your goddamn explanation!
This reveal comes to the surface when Ripley discovers that the crew member Ash is an android just like David and Walter, and it was Ash who was carrying out this secret mission for the Weyland Corporation.
Bring back life form, priority 1. All other priorities rescinded.
Ripley then puts a plan in motion to activate the ship's self-destruct sequence to kill the alien while she and the others escape in a shuttle. But before they can escape, everyone is killed by the alien except of course for Ripley and the ship's cat, Jonesy. As Ripley gets situated on the shuttle, she realizes that she is not alone and that the alien is on the shuttle with her. She encases herself in a spacesuit and opens the airlock of the shuttle, causing the alien to be sucked into the vacuum of space. Ripley and Jonesy then re-enter cryosleep, and they are adrift in space, hoping to one day be discovered by other travelers. And they would be, more than 50 years later.
This might be a shock to you. It's long.
How long?
57 years.
Now, following these events, we'd go on to get films like Aliens, as well as Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, all films starring Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. Kind of.
We've remade you. We cloned you.
But Alien Romulus appears to be serving not only as a midquel spin-off type movie, but also as a new sequel to the original Alien. Marketing for the film has suggested that the story of the original Alien movie, as well as the exact same xenomorph from that original film, will come back into play in Alien Romulus, which takes place about 20 years after the original film.
That's why it takes place between two movies in a way, almost perfectly in, actually 20 years after the first story.
Now, I also want to take a little bit of time to tell you some pertinent information from Aliens that you need to remember going into Romulus. Now, despite Aliens taking place after the events of Romulus, I think it's possible we could see some things in Romulus that connect to and maybe even set up Aliens, filling in that huge 50-year gap between the two films. So just to give a quick refresher, in Aliens, Ripley has been in stasis, floating through space in the escape shuttle for 57 years, and this is where she is during the events of Romulus. When she is found by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, they are skeptical of her discovery of aliens since that moon, LV-426, is now in the midst of being terraformed.
There have been people there for over 20 years, and they never complained about any hostile organism.
And sure enough, upon arriving at LV-426, they find that the aliens have taken over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
And it turns out that the Weyland-Yutani Corporation knew all along, and they were still pursuing their plans of weaponizing the xenomorph.
Look, those two specimens are worth millions to the bioweapons division.
Point being, the Weyland Corp is no good, and they are obsessed with the xenomorph, and they keep their space crews in the dark on their true desire to capture and control the xenomorph, so it's likely that we're going to see another ambushed crew in Romulus. So there's everything you need to know before seeing Alien Romulus, and be sure to come back and let us know what you thought of the movie. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.